Hey everyone, welcome back to Alchemy with Xerophayze. My name's Eric, and this should be a pretty fun tutorial video for everybody, or at least those who are interested in this. It was a request from somebody in the comments. We're actually going to touch on two things I think he requested. He put in a request a little while ago about fixing facial distortions, hand distortions, and we'll try to address that near the end of the video. But I think the more interesting request that he put was, how do I convert and I think this was in response to my pixel art video where I showed there's two different videos I did. One converting a pixel art character into a real character, and then I had a pixel art video. But he wanted to know, would it be possible to convert anime into real? Maintaining the same aesthetic, the look, hopefully, possibly even the clothing. And so I took on the challenge and did a little research, and sure enough, yeah, it is absolutely possible. So as you can see, I have an image of an anime girl here that I generated using a model specifically designed for anime. So it does it pretty easy. Don't even need to specify anime, it just does it. And I'll show you that model here in a second. So pretty classic stuff, classic schoolgirl look, big eyes, the long hair, kind of the bigger bulbous head, but not a lot of detail around the nose, obviously. So a big part of this is, how do you take this and convert it into something that looks real? And what we're going to do in this is go through the steps, the extensions, and the settings that you need to be able to do this, and go from something like this to something like this. Okay, maintaining pretty well the same look of the whole thing. As you can see, the bench is a little weird. AI image generation has an issue when you segment the image like this, when you have something separating, something like that. It has a hard time lining that up. It's really interesting. Sometimes it gets it, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, yeah. So as you can see, it is the exact same form, position, clothing. The hair is a little different. It took a little bit of freedom with the style, and that just all depends on the model that you're using to do the conversion. Okay. Another one I did was this one right here. Just a handsome young man sitting on a park bench. Again, the bench looks a little funny, but and it's definitely anime. And we can zoom in a little bit here. And then we went from that to that there. Maintaining the same basic look, but giving it a very real feel. And this is a one-shot conversion, but you could take an image like this. Once you get it to this, you could run it through image to image and actually continue the process of making it more real gradually. You can rerun it through just with a low denoise strength and gradually integrate more and more realism. But this was a one-shot render, and I think it turned out really well. So let's dive into it and show you how this is done. We're going to be going from beginning to end on this. The model I'm going to be using is called Anything 4.5. This one is designed for anime, and so I don't have, I like doing this off the cuff a little bit. I've had some people say, leave out the prompt generation and you'll save us 10 minutes. I kind of like the prompt generation. That's part of the experience, is figuring that out. So we're going to do something a little different. Let's come over here. Let's generate some prompts for, let's say, a young man standing on a street corner. We're just going to get a prompt, real basic for this. Come back over here. We're going to make sure we're on the anime. We're just going to pop this in here. We're going to do two images. We're going to leave it square. We're going to change this over to Euler A. The difference between Euler A and like DPM++ SDE Keras is that Euler A has a little bit more of a softer touch, and tends to not be as intricate with the details. Not sure exactly how else to put it. It's more of a painted look. The DPM++ SD Keras will give you a more realistic feel, the texture of things. So we'll switch over to that when we're doing the conversion. Okay, so we got the prompt in there. We're going to select negative here. My style sheet has several negatives. I'm just going to do this one right here. We're going to just drop this down to 20 sampling steps. I think that's it. So we're just going to go ahead and hit that and see what it gives us here. That's not bad. That's better. I like that one. We're going to run with that one. Okay. So now that we have our image, we're going to come down here. We are going to enable the A detailer. We want it to correct any facial issues that may be introduced by the next model. And speaking of models, we're going to switch this over to, I think what I was using for this was the Realistic Vision version 3 with a VAE baked in. And then what we're going to do is come down here to ControlNet. We're going to drop this image in here. Okay. We're going to enable Pixel Perfect. We're going to allow the preview. I like to see what it's going to do. For this first one, we're going to enable Open Pose. Part of this is really making sure we want to maintain the same body structure, body form, positioning, and when you give the AI freedom, sometimes it moves things around. So we're going to leave all these settings here the same. That's all we want to do on that. We're going to go to ControlNet Unit 1. So if you're curious about ControlNet here, there's lots of videos out there about using ControlNet. If your ControlNet only has one tab, go into the settings under ControlNet, and there's an option in there where you can add, using a slider bar, more ControlNet tabs. I like to have 3. Most of the time I'm only using 2, but there are certain situations where I will use 3, stacking up different models and different ControlNet functions. So we're going into ControlNet Unit 1. We're going to drop that same image in there. Okay, now that we got that image in there, we're going to enable Pixel Perfect again, allow preview, and then come down here. We're going to select Soft Edge. This is kind of like Canny. It's like a mix between Canny and line art, or Canny and like Scribble. As you can see, it does fill in a lot of the details, really instructing the AI where things are in a lot of detail, well-defined detail. Now, this is where the for lack of a better word, magic happens. We're going to drop this down to, actually, we're going to start at 0.85. The ending control step, we're going to drop down to 0.45. I just want to see what that does. The control weight, we may increase over 1.5. It really depends on how it interprets the scene and how much of the details we want to keep. I don't think we need to change the prompt. The only thing we might change is the details about what he's wearing. So the AI may give different colors to things. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put in a little bit of detail about the clothing. So we're going to put in wearing a white button-up shirt and black vest and black pants. Actually, slacks. The more specific you are, the better. Standing on a bustling street corner doesn't really look bustling. We're going to get rid of that because I want to keep it the way it is. I don't want it to add people. I don't think it will, but again, being the more specific you are, the better. Okay, we're going to drop the batch size down to 1. We're just going to do this one image at a time here. Okay, so I think we've got everything set the way we want for this initial generation. So we're going to go ahead and hit generate on this. Oh, so because we are run Diffusion FX, yeah, we selected the wrong model here. We wanted, where is it? Realistic Vision VAE. I'm not sure how it got on the other one. Okay, Realistic Vision V3 VAE. We're not specifying any anime, cartoon, words, or anything. Okay, so we're just going to hit generate. Something we may do is integrate like a specific camera, make, and model and lens, just to because sometimes that helps. But I don't think we're going to need to with this. I do think I have a detailer enabled, which basically will help with the face. Kept the suit and everything the same. Definitely had freedom with the ethnicity of the person. So, I mean, that's entirely up to you guys. In this particular instance, the person is Caucasian. Let's go ahead and specify that. Oops. Re-render. It did a great job, though. I mean, the way that looks is amazing. Go and fix the face. There we go. Now, in comparison, not bad. It kept it really well. Now, here's the thing. It did change his face a little bit, you know, and I think that's fine because when you're going from anime to real, you want the details and give it the freedom to do that. Let's go ahead and come down here. We're going to increase this to 1.2 on the control weight. What this will force it to do is maintain a heavier hand, almost like it'll be very restrictive in the shapes and everything. And we should have a maintain more of the structure of the face the way it is. I did kind of about the same thing, but you can see it narrowed the jaw just a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, that looks great. Totally realistic. And we can do this with another character. Let's go ahead and do one for a girl. So let's come down here and let's just change this over to woman. Grab that. Drop this in here. We're going to change this back over to the anything v4.5. And we're just wanting to get some images. We're not doing control net or anything on this. So we're going to disable these for just a moment and hit render. I should have added a couple more on the batch size. That's okay. I think we're going to get a great image here. So as you notice, something about this image, it looks a little washed out. Some of these models do not have the VAE built in. And so if you want to make sure that you're getting the full color depth on this, make sure you have the VAE FT-MSE 840,000. It's a pretty standard one. And I think we're going to keep that one. I like that image. So we're going to just hit this button here. This will grab the seed from the last image generated, or the one that's in focus. We're going to hit generate on that again. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we have somebody who's very anime. Okay. We're going to add first thing we're going to do is change the model again. So we're going to go back down to, you can try different models. I really find that I have good success with this one here. So we're going to remove the seed. And we're going to add a few more details about what she's wearing. Again, just to maintain consistency. So wearing black sweater and denim short skirt. Okay. And we'll come back down to control net. We're going to enable it again. We're going to drop that new image down in here. We're on open pose. We're not changing anything else. Make sure it sees it. Sometimes open pose doesn't see the skeletal structure, but this one it did pretty good. So we're going to go run with it. And then again with this, drop that image in there. Enable. Hit preview if you want. Okay. Leave all the other settings the same. I think we're fine. We don't have to do anything. They're pretty consistent. So we're going to generate on this. Make sure we're set to everything else. Oh, since we switched the realistic to the realistic vision model, it's already got the VAE baked in. You can shut this off. Okay. Put it on automatic, whatever. I don't think the automatic actually works because it doesn't see like when we switch it over if it needs to use the VAE for the other one. So whatever. All right, hit generate. Let's see what it does here. It kicks in. Looks like it's maintaining, maintaining the sweater, the denim skirt. It's gonna fix facial stuff. And I think we did pretty good with that. Obviously, it had a little artistic freedom with the hair a little bit, but I think that is what the person looks like. That's a great conversion. Let's come down here. I want to mess with this a little bit. Let's increase this up quite a bit. Let's go to 1.5. Let's just see how much or how rigid it actually is in that first little bit of the image. Had a little more artistic freedom with the color of the denim skirt. We could specify blue in that. It caught the person in the background and actually gave her a face. A detailer's a little weird sometimes. So let's do that. Let's go blue, denim short skirt. See what it does here. Yep, there it goes. It's converting it back over to blue. I think that one actually maintained the hair and other things a little more accurately. So we got the little bob over here. As you can see, it's in there too. Okay. Overall, definitely held to it a little bit more. Changed the color of the straps on the backpack, but you see that she does have the straps for the backpack. So I think that's a great rendition. You could actually add things in like vivid color or whatever. You can change a lot of different aspects. Now that you have the structure, you can change this over to whatever you want. Okay, now we're going to reverse this. We're going to be going the other direction, going from real to anime. This process is essentially the same. It can get a little more difficult because you got to give the AI a little more freedom when dealing with the settings down here. And so let's see how this goes. We're gonna generate some characters here, some people. I think we're just going to use this. We're going to disable control net here first. Just don't need that. We're going to leave a detailer enabled. I think the system has an easier time when the facial structures are set, they're not distorted. And this ties into what I'll touch on a little bit here is so when they are asked, how do you fix facial distortions and with hands or with face and the hands. A detailer definitely helps with that. And we'll touch on that a little bit here. But for right now, I want to make sure the faces are structured right. Okay. So let's come up here. We're going to switch this over to the SDE cross. Okay. We're going to leave everything else the same, I think. We don't need to change anything else. We don't need to change the prompt because it was designed to go either way. It could be real or, this one's designed for a realistic image because we were converting to a realistic image. We may convert it over to something that specifies anime cartoon. I think we're going to have to do that to really push it. So again, the prompt really does have a lot of control over what's in the image and how the image turns out. Okay, let's get some random images here. Find one that will be decent to use. Okay, now that we got some images, these aren't bad. We can work with these. So we got that one and this one. Obviously, it kind of, because we left wearing black sweater, blue denim short skirt, gave us kind of a similar character, but she's got long hair in both of these. We're going to do the one without the sun. Actually, we might do both of them. We're going to start with the one without the sunglasses because I want to obviously get through this and make sure it's working okay. Okay, so because we're starting off with this, let's go through what we're going to need to do. Obviously, we need to shift the model over. We're going to go over to the anything v4.5. We're going to make sure that the VAE is selected because we want to maintain decent colors. We're also going to change this, and we're going to just quickly specify cartoon anime image of a young woman wearing a black sweater, blue denim shirt, short skirt, whatever. Okay, so all we want to do is make sure that this is specified, cartoon anime image. Because we're using this, I don't know how much we need to rely on that, but it'll help the image, it'll help the AI to really do the conversion. So these settings, we're going to change the sampler to Euler A because we want that softer painted look. Come down here, A detailer, I don't think we need enabled. We've already got a decent facial structure. We're going to put control net down here. We're going to drop this image down here instead. Okay, same thing with this one here. We're going to drop this image down here. Let's make sure that it is able to pick up the structure. Okay, yeah, did a good job. Picked up somebody in the back, that's fine. Kind of makes me wonder if we are able to like mask these people out. Just curious if that does that. Oh, interesting. Let's try that. I've never used the masking option in here. I didn't know what it was for yet. I didn't think it would help. So we're just going to run with that. Okay, so we have the structure that should help maintain the pose and everything else. So now we come over to the control net unit 1. Let's make sure that's enabled. We're going to do a preview on that. And I think we're just going to leave the settings the same because I really want to see if this is really just the reverse of the other one. We want to maintain the same features in the image. When it hits 45% through the render, it's going to give the AI model freedom to finish converting it. Okay, that's what this is. It's basically saying at 45% through the render, we're going to stop using the control net functions and just let the AI finish rendering the structure of the image. Okay, let's give it a try and see what it does. I don't think there's anything else I need to change. Give it a second to kind of initialize. And there we go. Yeah. There we go. Let's jump over to this one here. That's not bad. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Just seeing. Yeah, I think I did a great job doing that conversion. You know, we can adjust these settings like, and the description. We could even say a more minimalistic cartoon anime image, which should reduce the amount of like shading and stuff like that. But I think this is great. I think you guys have already got the point. At this point, it's all about just tweaking and getting the final result that you want. But I kind of want to see what it does if we do that. And we're going to drop this down just a little bit more, just to let the AI kind of run, have a little more space to interpret it. So let's see what it does here. Gets the basic structure, and then yeah, shifts over to that. Definitely got a more minimalistic look. Not bad. And we could probably introduce words like cell shading or painting. Really, the detailed control will be handled in the prompt itself. This gets you, I don't know, 90% of the way when it comes to converting from real to anime or cartoon. Let's grab that other image that we had with the sunglasses. Let's see, I think it was this one right here. Yeah, let's take that one. I think I'm going to need to grab it from the actual folder here, because there's no way, I don't think they have a way to just send this over to control now. Oh, they do, look at that. Let's see if it does it. Hey, it did it. All right, cool. So we got that. It did not do it there. Let's see if it'll do it if I do the same thing here. I think it just shifted on the unit 0. Yeah, we're going to have to manually change the one to on this one here. So let's take a look here and see what we can do. Let's grab, make sure I get the right one with the sunglasses. Okay. Okay. So now let's go jump over here. Let's make sure we get the that it's getting the proper skeletal structure. Yep, perfect. Okay, and same thing for the soft edge. Okay. This time we're gonna leave the description the same, except we're gonna add in wearing a black sweater, blue denim skirt, and sunglasses. And I think that's it. Let's run it and see what it does. And yeah, we got something that's very anime. You know, we're letting it, we're really forcing it to maintain the same structure with the control weight. Let's see what happens if we drop this down. We're going to drop it down to 0.65. We're going to give the AI a little freedom to interpret the image, see what it comes up with. Looks about the same. A little more of an anime look there. That's not bad. It's interesting how it keeps a lot of this in the background the same. Just for kicks, we're going to drop that down even more. I really want to see what it does here when we give it a little bit more freedom on that. Yeah, a little bit more interpretation going on there. Obviously, it changed the color of the purse. This one looks a little more cartoony in the background. So mess with those settings, but you get the idea. Okay, and so the last thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, I've already touched on this throughout the video, is when you're dealing with bad facial structure. In fact, here's a great way to do this. Let's go to Illuminati Diffusion. This is one, a model I've had for a while. I love this model. We are going to get rid of the anime part of this. Get rid of the high quality detailed 8K and just leave it at that. We're going to switch over to that on the samplers, the DPM++ SDE Keras. We're going to shut off control now. Okay. We're going to make sure a detailer is not enabled. Okay. And let's just render an image here and see what we get here. If we don't do anything and you're using an older model, a lot of the older models tend to have bad facial structure. Oh, you know, let's get rid of the sunglasses. We're actually going to get rid of all this. All I want is that standing on a street corner. Okay, let's just render that. I want to see if I can get, so here's the thing, the closer the face is to the camera, the better the facial structure will be. And obviously we're getting some pretty decent facial structures, even for this model, but I think, yeah, let's see if we can get something a little different here. I want it to be further away. And so what we're going to do is image of a young woman walking down a city street with cars and traffic. What I want to do, what this is doing is I'm saying, okay, I want an image of a woman walking down the street, but because we're using walking down, it's telling the AI, oh, there's another function going on. We have to include legs. City street, so it's backing up its focus and including part of the image will have a city street and car. So it has to now fit all that into the image, so the character should be further from the camera. Yep, there we go. Let's see what it does with the faces here. So we're getting only a little bit of distortion on here. Eye is definitely off. It's not looking right. You can go through and in-paint this. The hand is a little funky. Big hands. Again, what I'm going to recommend is that there's a few different things that you can do to really improve the overall balance of a person, whether it's their face, the hands, the body structure. The first thing is use a good model. You can use just about any model, but some models are better than others. Illuminati diffusion is one. It's kind of an older one. You will get some facial distortion. One I love using is where is it? Absolute reality. No, if you want something realistic, so the realistic vision or the dreamlike photoreal is a good one that has very good training and will give you pretty good consistent results. Now, picking the model is important. Finding out which models are trained to have good hands, good faces is good. The other part of it is how you're setting up your image. When you're doing portraits, you can do square, 1:1 ratio. I tend to like doing 5:4 ratio. That'll allow more of the body, because a lot of people complain, well, why am I only getting a face? Why is it cutting off their head? It really comes down to what kind of an image are you specifying? What is your aspect ratio? So if I were to pick, so you see how it's cutting off her legs here. If I were to pick something like 5:4, and let's just back this up to 1 so we can speed this up a little bit. So a 5:4 ratio, oh, that's wide, hold on. We're on, okay, yeah, that's fine. We're gonna do, just to keep this realistic photo of, okay. We're going to switch this over so that it's a portrait, so it's longer than it is wide, and then hit generate on that. When you specify more portrait, you should get something a little more normal. Okay, so it's still cutting it off here. What are we specifying? Car street and walking down City Street. Yeah, that's fine. So let's go to a full 9:16. We need to specify more stuff in the image. And here's the thing, it really is all about the prompt. I don't want to mess with this too much. I'm just going to come in here to my prompt generator and throw this in and see what it comes up with. Okay. So here's some things that will help out with any image. Okay. Specifying some of these like high quality detailed are pretty optional. Captivating photograph captures a young woman gracefully strolling through a bustling city street surrounded by a sea of cars and vibrant traffic. That will immediately bring the shot back. Shot with a camera, specifying a camera will also balance the image. Okay, and trending on has a little bit of effect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We should get something a lot different. It's a lot more realistic. It's still interpreting it her close up. That's interesting that it's sticking with that. Let's see, captivating. Oh, captivating. Let's do... specify what she's wearing. And high heels. when you tell the AI that there's other things to focus on, see how now it's brought it back. It didn't fully bring that in where we see the feet, but it did bring it back more. Let's open this up to, let's switch this over to a 16 by 9. So what we're seeing here, this model is really trained on this kind of image with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch this over to a different model. Again, this is Illuminati is an older model. It's kind of a generalist model. Let's switch this over to something that is trained on this kind of thing. So we're going to go back to, we're going to do, where's it? Dreamlight photoreal. We're going to switch this back over to a portrait. So 9 by 16. Okay, so there's so many different aspects to getting the image right. The other thing you want to look at is your resolution. Okay, the width and height that you're looking at. Obviously, the aspect ratio is important, but when you have the res down, like let's say low like this, you're not giving the AI a lot of room to work with, and so it will tend to create this closer up image. If I bring this out to say 520 by 928, it should change it and actually give more space to implement what's in the surrounding scenery. And the Dreamlight photoreal is definitely a model that's trained better on this kind of thing. Okay, definitely pulled it back. Let's do this a little bit here. You don't want to, you got to be careful with the resolution. Obviously, it'll introduce more distortions, more centered this time. So let's say we want to not focus so much on what the woman is wearing. We're going to just say photo of a woman. So because we're not putting so much emphasis on the woman, but giving more emphasis to the surrounding area, it pulled the image way back. Again, this model is pretty well trained on faces, but if you wanted to fix faces, just make sure you have the A detailer enabled. Okay, you can leave it on the default settings. If you do enable the hands, like if you go and use the hand one, I do find I have better results by increasing the under inpainting section of the A detailer, increasing the denoise strength to something like 0.5 will sometimes help with hands. Hands are difficult. You know, unless the model is trained on it, you're almost never going to get decent hands. It just takes a second, it renders the initial image, then it'll go in and fix the face. You may not see it jump in unless there's multiple faces, but it is fixing it right now, and you end up with something that looks a lot better. So, yeah, so again, with fixing distortions, you can inpaint. I think that's fine. I've done videos on that, but honestly, use the tools that are available to you. A detailer will save you a lot of time when rendering images and not having to deal with fixing faces after the fact. Just helping to accelerate your workflow. That's all I've got today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe our channel and the video. Check out our Discord if you want access. Send me a message in the chat below. I'll leave links in the description for if you have questions. Like, I know some of you are curious about my prompt generator. I've been developing that over several months. We're on version 5 now, and it works phenomenally. And people love it. It's great. It really helps take the burden of trying to figure out a good prompt off your shoulders if you don't want to have to deal with that. And it'll be as detailed or as minimalistic as you want as well. Check out my other video. I do have a video going through some of the functions of it. And let me know what other suggestions or requests you might have, and I'll try to get to them. Talk to you later.